Alright, yins guys, welcome to my tutorial. I've been meaning to do this tutorial especially for certain people. They had tutorials out there to make this lasagna. And I got my ingredients here. And I've done this for a Salvation Army dinner that I contributed on my own. I got these two at the local store, these two bags, but if I were at Walmart, I'd buy the one bag that's as big as two of these. But I usually get ground chuck, but couldn't find any at this local store. But if you're going to Walmart, I prefer to get ground chuck, but this ground round will do. I'm using Del Grosso today, but I have used Bartoli brand sauce when I made this dinner for the Salvation Army like 2 years ago. So, and I prefer San Giorgio lasagna. And I have used a pan that was like almost twice as deep as this. So I'm going to tell you, keep in mind when you choose your ingredients. You know, it's up to you what kind of sauce you use. I've even used Alfredo sauce once, but because this is I prefer, you know, I'll use the Bartoli brand, which was a big success. That was the brand that I used for the Salvation Army dinner. And I used ground chuck for that, but this is ground round, so we're just going to go right to it. So I got my next step here. I got my meat in this thing, and I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to get it cooking up and cook some of that grease out. See how much grease this makes and drain the grease anyway. So we're just getting this started. And I'm going to use this pan, but the reason why I have this here, now this is one of my more convenient little secrets here. I used to put it like in a pot like this and just set it in there, and you would wait for the pasta to bend a little bit. Don't cook it too much. And I've discovered though that since I'm using a pan like this, I can use a pan like this, and what I did is turn it on. I'm going to warm the water up. And the method to my madness of this is, instead of putting it in a pot and then you having trouble with it getting all stuck together and all that, I'm going to wait a little bit to this, should wait a little bit till this warms up too, actually, I'm going to wait till I get this meat cooked really to show you a little bit, but I guess it don't really hurt nothing to put it in there early. I'm just going to show you this, but then we're going to go in a step. What I'm going to do with this pan is I'm going to wait for this to get hot to actually do that, but I'm going to throw a bunch of these in a row. And I'm not going to boil this water. I'm going to get it like good and like steak warm. So, and we're going to cook it just so this pasta bends a little bit, because then if you cook it too much, it falls apart. I learned that in the past. Just so it bends a little bit, that's all you need. No need to, you know, cook it. So I just, when I warm this water, I'm going to have it, you know, a lot of these pastas floating in here while I'm prepping this and getting my sauce and everything ready. So I'll try to explain that the best I could. So I'm going to wait for this water heats up to throw this in there, but there's going to be a whole bunch of these in here. But I don't want this tutorial to be too boring, so they're going to do the meat, and then I'm going to have like my sauce mixed in with the meat and then a little cheese in it. You'll see in a second. I don't want to go on and on too much, but alright, guys. You got this meat pretty much like cooking here. I just turned it off. It's not boiling. I see it didn't make a heck of a lot of grease, but I got my water going here. So what we're going to do, well, I'm going to do the next step, and I'm going to strain this. I'm going to start putting these in. Reason why I didn't do it too soon, I want to get this meat cooked somewhat too, because I don't want to overcook these. And I'm not boiling this water. There's some steam coming in this water. Put a bunch of these in here like a row. You don't want them to be all bunched together and be sticking together or anything either, but I'm going to cook these until they bend. Then I should be able to pick them up with a pair of tongs and they bend a little bit and put them in the pan. But we're going to strain this. So I'm going to... My kitchen isn't quite as big here as even the place last time we lived. I got this strainer here. Yeah, you got to be careful when you use the strainer. Be careful not to strain yourself. That's a very important thing. Just be careful not to strain yourself. You know, I'm being silly, but I'm going to get my glove here. Get my love glove here. And we're just going to get, you know, the most of the grease out. I'm not even going to wash this grease out. You have a good strong right hand too with this cast iron. Ah! Yeah. Just to let some of that drip out of there. Leave that for a couple seconds to drain out. And what I'm going to do is put it in the back of the pot. And what it is, I'm not going to wash the grease out. Let a little bit of that grease be in there. Then when I add my sauce to it. Just going to let that be for a few seconds and let that drain into there. Shake that around a little bit. And I don't like to overcook the meat. Just cook it so some grease is out, because I'm going to simmer this in some sauce and then mix it with some cheese. See, that's still dripping in there. Get as much of the excess grease out as we can. Shake that around. It's dripping a little bit, so we're going to let it be for about a minute. Alright, I'm going to take this strainer here, and I'm going to throw this back in the pot. Then I'm going to wash that later, throw that in the sink. In the meantime, I'm going to prep the sauce. Check these. See, look at that. That's bending a little bit already. But it'll be okay for another minute while I'm prepping this sauce. And I've got to move this stuff out the way here too. This cheese. I don't have a heck of a lot of room in the kitchen, so I'm doing the best I could here. So we're going to take this, dump this sauce in here. Like I said, I'm using this plain sauce. This is Bonnie's birthday. I'm making her a birthday lasagna. And there's a lot of things that she can't have. She can't have green peppers or a lot of chunk tomatoes in here. But when I did it for the dinner, you know what I mean, I used Bertolli with garlic and then chunk tomatoes in it. And then a couple of different ones. Meat flavored, a jar of the meat flavored stuff, and a garlic with chunk of tomatoes, like a couple of jars. Like I made like a way bigger lasagna. This I kind of threw a couple of them in there, but we're going kind of plain with it this time because we're going to mix this up a little bit like that. And I'm going to put the lid on it and let it simmer like a couple of minutes. And while this is simmering, I'm going to go put the lid back on and let that simmer. Then I'm going to get this stuff out the way because, in another second, I'm going to get as much of the sauce out of this jar as possible. But to keep the tutorial from being too ridiculously long and not to the point, I'm just going to go right ahead to the next step right now. Where the heck is my tongs? I'm going to pause the camera. I got to get my tongs. Oh, doggone it. I'm looking for my tongs. I thought I had another pair. Here they are. I put them in here to keep lock the cupboard door because this cupboard, the magnet ain't working very well. Got to check that out, so I used that. So I'm going to grab it up. See, this bends a little bit. I'm going to start lining it up there. Oh, when you do the first ones that go into a corner like this, we're just going to snap the corner off on each side. Take that. Yes, I washed my hands real well. So that fits in over there. And see, these, they flop around. It's just bending a little bit. They're easy to handle because when it starts cooking in the oven, it's going to cook some more. So, see, they're bending. It kind of flops like that. You know what I mean? You overcook it, then you try to handle it. It falls apart before it gets to its final destination there, and you don't want that. Another thing too, if you got some lasagna pieces of pastas that are all busted up and stuff, you're not going to see it under there anyway. Just let it heat that way and just set it the best you can, because there's going to be cheese on top of it too, whether you hide it in the middle or when you add the cheese on top of it and it bakes, it's going to, see, there's like that. Then this, once again, I'm going to snap the corner off. And then snap that corner off there. You'll let that lay there, it ain't going to hurt nothing. And see, there's kind of a gap over here, you know what I mean? If it doesn't really hurt nothing, but can distribute that. Even though I snapped the corners off, I can distribute that a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We know we can fit 6 on there, so really, I had that. That'll be okay in there a little while. Prep the next layer. So I'm taking these out of here. I'm going to throw some more in. 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4. Then that one, it's been in there a little longer. We'll use that next. So, gonna check on our sauce here. Oh, doggone it. I thought this was supposed to be simmering a little bit, but I forgot to turn it back on. Doggone it. But I put a little water and put the lid on in the sauce jar. A teeny bit of water, not too much. There, so that I can not waste any of the sauce. And I'm going to throw this in the trash here. Set it in that corner. But yeah, we're gonna simmer the stuff up a little bit because I'm using this measuring cup to throw spoons in here. Mix this up. Now I'm gonna start. I forgot to turn it back on. I was supposed to be simmering this a little bit. Doggone it, so oh well. But now here's why I'm doing this differently. You can put some spaghetti cheese in here and mix it up, what I like to do. Or if your sauce winds up being too much sauce compared to meat, I don't know. Instead of putting spaghetti sauce cheese in there, spaghetti cheese. I usually get a thing of spaghetti cheese and put it in with my sauce and then shake it around my mixture. I'm not going to do that today because I forgot to buy it. But I'm going to throw some of this in here and mix it up and have it melt in there. This was supposed to be simmering about a handful, because I don't want the sauce to be too thin and runny. I'm going to mix it in. I used to use like spaghetti cheese and throw it in there, but sometimes the spaghetti cheese is a little powdery. You got to use it sparingly. I'm just not going to do that this time. I forgot to buy it, but I do this sometime too. And I don't always have any set way of doing this. I'm going to put one more handful in here. Let that simmer and let that melt in there and give it a consistency there. And then let it simmer like just for a couple of minutes. Just to heat it up a little bit, get some of that cheese melted. When I put the lid on there, it's going to start simmering a little bit. About maybe 3 or 4 minutes when it starts getting hot. Put this lid on there, no big deal. And enough of time where I get this started cooking so it bends a little, you know what I'm saying? So I'm waiting for this to soften up a little bit and bend and simmer in this a minute or two. I can throw it in like this right now, but I'm going to wait for this anyway, because when I put that in there, I'm going to put it in there, do this other layer, and I'm going to do one more layer like this. And I'm going to have my ricotta in a layer here. Oh yeah, sometimes you can put your ricotta in first or your meat first, and it doesn't really matter. Sometimes I've put the meat mixture in first, but you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do it. I think I did that before. In my case, it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to put a layer of ricotta. Go ahead and put it in here while I'm waiting for that to simmer. You know, it's like you're doing something while you're waiting for one thing, do a thing, you know. Take my big spoon out here and get this thing of sugar out the way. It's in my kitchen. I need to get another item there for this hot chocolate. Don't really need to be here either. But I'm going to put a little... I sometimes base my layers upon the idea of that I'm doing something while I'm waiting for another thing to transpire, waiting for one thing, do one thing while you're waiting for the other. Just going to throw it on there, and I'm just going to chop it up and just create a layer in there. And what I'm going to do is... What it is sometimes I forget what to put first, so I do mine according to the convenience, like I'm doing something, especially when I'm doing a tutorial, or even when I'm not doing a tutorial. Something I can be doing something while I'm waiting for another thing, you know what I'm saying? So let the meat mixture will go in with this, you know, and before I'm going to smooth this out in here. I'm going to use about half this container of the ricotta. Take about half of it out, and then I'm going to put the other half into a layer. Go and spank it. Try to spread it out and give it a good spanking. I usually use a bigger plastic spoon. Just give it a good spanking, but it doesn't matter. You can take your big plastics. I'm trying not to dirty too many tools and utensils at the time. But that's gonna... Looks like I need more of that in there anyway. I might just go ahead and put... I gotta distribute some. Kind of make it like a... Don't matter if you want to put it in a little thick, you could. Now the heck with it, I'm gonna get another spoon here. Oh, what the heck. Give it a good spanking. There, you know what, that works better that way, the plastics, and then kind of crush it a little bit. There, see how it's trying to get that layer in there. And in the meantime, put that in there for now. See how this... I kind of hear it cooking a little bit there. Oops, that corner there, get that going pretty good. Because I'm going to put this layer of meat in there, and then I'm going to put that on top, and then I'm going to add to this. This is going to be ready. Yeah, we'll go ahead and turn that off. This is a good consistency here. See that melting in there already. that made it a little. Since I got a whole other bag of this cheese, just doing this as a go. Doing this as you go. The next time you make it, you might do something in a different order. It doesn't really matter. I'll throw a little bit more cheese in here because there's plenty of room in a pan in here, and this is already hot, and it's gonna kind of dissolve in there a little bit. Make it good and spreadable here. There. I want it to be a not too thin of a consistency. And this cheese is going to make it there. We can deal with it. We can live with that. Okay. And since my constraints about my space here, I'm going to try to be careful here when I do this. Put that in there and spank it. This. Put there, some in there. Spank it a little bit. So we're going to have 2 layers of each. Put that in there. Spank it a little bit. That in there. Spank it a little bit. Give it a good spanking. Need a little bit of discipline with your food, you know? Show it you mean business, yeah, but then you gotta because you gotta allow enough for like 1 second layer, because see how high that's gonna get already. Alright. Okay, I'm pausing each recording I do in case anything goes wrong with the video, you know what I mean, too. I don't want to. Then I'm just going to render this video and then put it together and render it together. Gonna take, come here. See this one, it's starting to, see what I mean? That's bending a little bit more there because I had to wait. Well, that one, And if you're cooking like I'm just at home, I get plastic gloves that I use for cooking, you know, with somebody else. But wash your hands really good. That's a no-brainer. Even before there was a pandemic. Yeah, when I made this for a Salvation Army dinner, right after the Salvation Army kettle time was over, like a month or so after that, that pandemic was already making the news. And then right after that, another year comes along. I moved this. The end of the last past August, I've moved, and I got this new place, this new kitchen. And did a Salvation Army bid, you know, for this town because it's a good golden opportunity to make friends with and that's a thing that you kind of would want to do if you're not working or anything, whatever reason, because of the pandemic, and you're collecting benefits or of any kind, and you're not doing anything anyway. Go out and make friends with, when you move into a neighborhood, that's just what you do, you know. Golden opportunity to make friends with the locals. That's what the first thing you should want to do. But anyway, okay, so I'm short 1 piece there. Oops, so we're going to put some in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, I'm going to need, take this out of this box here. Well, I'm going to need more than 6. I'm going to need about 7. So I'm going to, 1, 2, get in there. 3. Doggone it, I didn't want them to move. Really, rather not have them on top of each other. I don't want them to get stuck together. But 4, 5. Really, I'm getting to the next home stretch here. And I'm going to need out of this box. See, I've used up, throw that away. Oops, dropped it on the floor. So really, now once this water is getting hotter, I have the burner on like a simmer, like a real low. This is gonna start bending a little bit faster now. I messed up and kind of got them on top of each other. They kind of moved, but that's quite all right. I'm gonna give this about a minute. I need one for over there. But what we're going to do, this needs about maybe, I don't know, 2-3 minutes just to start bending a little bit more to put one here. But it ain't going to hurt nothing to go ahead and put the rest of this ricotta on here. I'm just going to throw it on here. Because it's going to be, and I got to do one more layer. So this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to use two hands to put the rest of this on here, and that'll buy me some time while I'm waiting for this. So, and I'll just move stuff over in that spot. I'm going to pause the camera for now. Alright, at this point, I used the last of the ricotta, and now I'm going to kind of, not just spank it, what we're also going to do is kind of go like this and press down on it and squeeze it down a little bit, because, and at the same time spread it. And this ain't covering, I'm just distributing it the best I can to use the last of the ricotta. It's not covered everything. Squeeze it down in every single corner. Press it a little bit so it's, to make sure I need this much room here. I don't want it to, well, you see how much taller this pan is instead of this pan. That's why I don't use this pan. I want to use this one because I want multiple layers in here. So this ain't going to matter much. You know why? Because what I'm going to do, well, usually I buy way more cheese. Like I said, too, there's this big honkin' pack of mozzarella I bought, and several jars of Bartoli brand sauce. And I've acquired a foil pan at the time that was a little bit taller than this. So this time I'm just gauging. Me and Bonnie are going to eat for a couple of days on this. So we're just going to distribute this around and cover up these unsightly, like I said, I'm doing this. You should use plastic gloves, but I got my hand washed and I'm at home right now. Use complete care when you're cooking for somebody else too. I would prefer to use some kind of gloves even when nobody's watching or anything. When you're going to give this to somebody else, you know. I don't know what anybody else does at home, but yeah. Okay, so we kind of throw a layer of this down. Then we're going to put the actual other layer of, there, a little bit in this corner. So we're going to put all the rest of this in, and that's going to go in there pretty good there. Meanwhile, this is heating up and it's going to bend some more. I had that one I added. So we're going to put this in here. We're going to put all the rest in here. Just going to go corner by corner until it's all gone. Then the final piece is on top before I add my things to top it off, and then we're going to get the cheese and top it off. I'll be getting into the other bag here, or if I'm using a big honkin' bag, there'll be stuff left over to snack on. Better to have too much than not enough. But just going to get it all out of the pot for now. And I'm going to drop some of that in there, but that's all right. No big deal. Just going to throw this in here for now. Then we're going to spread it around real good and then top it off with this. I'll pause the camera maybe and scrape the rest of this out. Then what you do is give it a good spanking. Just don't splash yourself either. But if you splash yourself, you know, you're going to launder your clothes or whatever. If you're wearing an apron or whatever. But okay. Yeah, I've made some, like, during when the pandemic was going on, I got real bored, and the dollar store was open in the town we used to live right there in Aliquippa. I went and bought a pan from there. And the only other sauces, there was a couple other sauces, they were almost out. So I used some Alfredo sauce. And if I say so myself, it was fine, I liked it, but I have made an Alfredo lasagna. I actually put, you know, red sauce in here in a layer and some Alfredo in another layer. Because, you know, I mean, didn't want to get on no bus or anything yet. I just bought locally, you know, from the Dollar General there, and they were out of, everybody else had the same idea. They're buying stuff up. So the only other sauces I had was Alfredo. So when that year, the pandemic, you know, last time I was in Aliquippa before we moved. So yeah, I don't have no real set rules. I'm just giving you the gist on it because I just wanted to do this. I actually have on a YouTube, a YouTube channel, YouTube, called it the YouTube A-Hole Cooking Show. I've been put forth the proposition you can dive into cooking and do it any old way. You do hit and miss until you find something that works, you know. But I'm not doing that with this. I'm making this an exclusive video, so I'm not going to go on about that. I'm going to pause the camera and scrape this out and put it in here, and then we're going to top this off. I scraped the pot out, and we're going to add our final layer here. Doggone it if I'm still going to have a box of this left. I didn't have to get into that other box after all. So I had 2 boxes of this I didn't have to buy. I already had in the cupboard. See, this bent already. It's kind of flopping around. Put that up on there. And it doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to have cheese on it. Like I said, I'm surprised. It's a miracle I didn't have no broken ones in this box. But if you have broken ones, it's not the end of the world. You know, they're all busted up. Just lay it around because you're going to have this cheese on top of it anyway. But it's a miracle for this video here. See, I kind of get it just so it bends. See, see the good reason why I like to do this? You can keep track of it better. Come here. Keep track of it. And see, when this pan, it kind of gets a little too short over here, but that doesn't matter. You ain't going to see that. It's always good to have an extra box handy because you don't know how many. Like I said, I have gotten a pan that was deeper than this. When I did this for that Salvation Army thing that I went and offered to cook one just to make things more interesting, just to see how things go, because I was sort of proud of myself because I'm the cook at home. See, now look at that. I have one left over, so I'm going to scoot these over here. Well, throw it on in here. I'm going to kind of move this over. Doggone it. Oh, and the reason why sometimes I like to use spaghetti cheese, which I didn't today, I forgot to buy it, so I'm just not using it. Say if your sauce boils over, I want a deep pan with extra space if I can. Because if you use one layer, what I like to do is to keep it, say, from boiling over, the sauce boiling away, from boiling over. You know how it goes to boil over? You use it, say, before I even put this layer on, what I would do is take a whole thing of spaghetti cheese and sprinkle it all over the top and then put this down, because say it's boiling over, it'll absorb that and keep it from getting all over your stove. But I just said the heck with it. I forgot to buy it today. I thought I had some, so we're not going to do that. Okay, so you can, if you're at home, you can squish it down with your hands. But I'm going to take this and I'm going to put some pressure. Let that corner snap a little. See, when you're doing this, put some pressure on it. If you can, you like your to be allow a little bit of space in case you get some boil over. Oh, I forgot. Got to preheat this to about 400 degrees, the stove here. It'll beep to remind you. This stove, unlike where we used to live, this makes you preheat. And it'll beep until you hit the start button. Okay, so press this down. Just press it down all around and squeeze it down. Alright, then I'm going to later on, when I put this in, I'm going to be singing the old blues song. I have to look up who sings that. I have it in my MP3 collection. Too many dirty dishes in this house just for us two. Blues song called Too Many Dirty Dishes. I'm going to dump this in the sink and get rid of it. Wait till it cools down. I turned this off, so this is off. You don't want to have it boiling. All you're doing here, to remind you, all you're doing here, get it kind of hot so the heat is making it, bend. You can even have it, less cooked than it is now, and the heat is going to cook the rest of that. I have done it. And now for the rest of this, just dump the rest on here like this, and then start distributing it. Looks like I'm going to have to break into the other bag of cheese just to get the rest going, because for my top, I don't like to be cheap with the cheese. But like I said, I remind you, I kind of like to use spaghetti cheese to the powdered spaghetti cheese. If you get any boil over, before it reaches the end and gets all over your stove, it hopefully will absorb it, but this cheese will do that too. I'm going to pause the camera and get my other bag of cheese. I'm going to need a few handfuls on here, and then we're almost going to put this into the stove. Alright, so I got one whole box left, and I got a whole thing of sauce. But like I said too, for the Salvation Army dinner, I used Bartoli brand. It was some meat-flavored sauce and a couple jars of the garlic sauce and chunks of tomato in there. But I'm going to do this more plain today. But I'm just basically showing you this. It's up to you what kind you want to use and stuff. Showing you my method of managing the pasta for the most part. Since I got a lot of extra cheese, it's better to have this. We'll be snacking on it later. Or I might make a smaller lasagna some other time just to use that up. But I'm going to go ahead and pause the camera while I fix this. I'm just going to throw a bunch of handfuls on here. I'm going to have this melt right on the top. Oh, and when you put foil to cover the top, if you have like a olive oil spray the foil with it before you put this down, so your cheese doesn't get stuck on the foil. But I forgot the sprayable stuff I don't have. I need some more. I'm going to take a paper towel like the next step, and I'm going to rub some of this on the foil. I'm going to show you that in a minute. I'm going to pause the camera, fix this up a bit, and then put this cheese away. There's going to be a bunch of that left, so. Okay, I got this much cheese left. Gotta do some cleaning up. What we do is just press this down, pat it down a little bit, squeeze it down. So you want to try to compact it a little bit there. Where's my, take this thing, and you want to kind of press it a little bit. Press it down. So I want to try to cover every corner. I got to clean this all up. Singing the blues song, Too Many Dirty Dishes. Alright, I'm going to pause this for a second before I prepare to, I'm going to get this out the way, and I'm going to show you a trick here when I cover this with foil. Alright, I got 2 pieces of foil because this is what it's going to take. I'm going to go that much, and then I'm going to put another piece on here. And so like I said, we usually use this for other kind of cooking, but I like to spray my foil so your cheese doesn't get all stuck on there. And then I like to cover it with foil so that, especially when you're cooking with an electric stove, you want the heat to distribute inside there. So what we're going to do is do just one little dribble like that. Oops, that's too much. So I'm going to use a little bit of this. And what I'm going to do is, I can't do this with one hand on the camera. Just wet this. This isn't going to be like a mess. I'm going to just smooth this all over the foil. Oh, it's preheating is ready. Usually I have the olive oil or the oil spray, and I don't have that, so I'm going to improvise. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to pause the camera. I'm going to just a little coating on there. Right. So what I did was I held on to one end and just smoothed it. And you're basically, if you use too much oil, you're actually sopping it up with this anyway. You want it to be oily, so since this feels oily, that's what you want. Because during the presentation, when I take this out of the stove and unveil it, the presentation when you unveil it doesn't look very good when you have cheese peeling off and sticking to your foil. That doesn't look right. And see, this doesn't cover completely, so I flipped it over. The side I oiled is going down. So I'm going to go like that and like that. Drag this over. So I'm going to pause the camera so that I can fix that up a bit. Alright, yins guys. Oh, and I also, I got this real nice, the side I oiled is down on there, so hopefully little or none of the cheese will stick to with the extreme heat. There's a chance it could a little bit anyway, but you don't want the cheese to stick to your foil and be all peeling, and it doesn't look as good as a presentation. But people are going to eat it up anyway. But all right, and foil over top of it, make the heat distribute all in there nicely, and like reduce the mess. But yeah, it went off. The dinger went off. I gotta wipe the stove off and everything else too. Yeah, I took my dish rack out so that I can wash all this stuff. But while I clean this up, pause the camera because I'm going to need both hands to put this in the stove. But yeah, nothing will stick there, hopefully, and plus there'll be heat trapped in there. I'm going to cook it for about an hour, but when you start smelling it, an hour, maybe a couple minutes earlier. Well, it's 2:53 now, so I'm going to shoot for about 3 o'clock. And then what I'll do is on the stove, I'm going to pick up this foil a little bit and take a knife. And when you plunge it in, you'll know it's done. Plus, when you start smelling it. So we're going to pause this, and then I'm going to use 2 hands and put this in the stove. All right, it's in the stove. We just put it in, and we're going to close it. And another thing, I'm going to see you in about an hour. One other thing I didn't tell you too. I use one foil pan. If you're taking this to take to a dinner like I have done before for Salvation Army, you actually want to get 2 foil pans inside of each other. So they don't flop around, because that's a lot of weight in there. And if you're one good tip for you, if you're going to make something like this and transport it, if you're not using a harder cookware pan and you're using a foil pan, put 2 of them inside each other because it's stronger. And I didn't do that because this is what we're going to eat here. But yeah, that's what I would do. So it doesn't bend and you don't have an accident and everything else. But all right, 2:55. See you in about an hour when we check on this and do the unveiling. All right, what we're going to do. It's 3:45 already. I'm going to go ahead and test this a little bit. Yeah. Pull this off just a little bit. So far the cheese isn't sticking. And oh, that plunges right in. So what we're going to do, I turned the stove off just now. So I'm going to let some of that residual heat just take care of that. I'm going to leave it in there till 4 o'clock because I just now turned it off and I like to power it down a little bit. So it's a little bit less hot in there. Let that residual heat cook it a teeny bit more, but the knife plunges right in it. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that in there until 4 o'clock with it turned off because there's a lot of residual heat in there. You see, I cleaned all the dirty dishes. So we're going to take it out, so stay tuned. All right, yins guys, it's time for the unveiling. Let's see if any of this stick to the foil. Hoping not. Man, I got this foil down pretty. All right. Okay, so far we didn't get any sticking. A little bit on that corner. And plunge the knife. Look at that. That's when you can tell the pasta is completely done. You just plunge it just about anywhere. Look at that. See, I don't know how that got the consistency like that, and then the rest of that is melted like that. But that has molten, believe me. The pasta, anywhere you stab it, it's getting, it's done. I'm going to cut this and we're going to serve Bonnie a piece and me a piece. And if you prefer to, you can let this completely like chill so it cuts in a block and put it in the microwave. It comes out like a slab, like a cake. It comes right out. When you take this out like right fresh out of the oven, it's going to flop all over the place. But like say you have this in for later, it'll come out in a nice slab like a piece of cake. Then you can microwave it and it even tastes better that way. So this is going to flop all over the place, but then when you eat it, you know, chew it up and eat it, it doesn't matter anyway, but cut a piece for her and for me. So this always gets this way when kind of go like this a little bit too. Get that out of there. So that's going to come out and flop in like a pile, but still, yikes. No. All right, there's that. And it's, when you have it chilled and then you serve it for the next day, it's going to come out in a big wad, just like a cake, you know what I mean? But this is how it always gets when it's fresh out of the stove. But serve hers and mine, but And this is a little bit like this, but then when you cut chunks out like a cake and you reheat it, that's going to change, you know what I mean? But as you can see, that pasta cooked real well. Oh, mm, very good. All right, I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to go and render this video, and I'm going to put this in the computer and render it into one video now, and after we eat supper here. So, man, we're going to eat for probably 3 days on this. 2 more days after this. But like I said, I just used plain sauce, and I didn't even spice up the meat or anything. Oh yeah, I usually put garlic in there. But Bonnie's on blood thinner, so we can't have. Really, she shouldn't have a lot of garlic. I myself will put a bunch of garlic in there, and maybe some onion or whatever spices you like in your meat. I decided to do this as a neutral way, and you do whatever sauce and spices you like. And I hope what you got out of this was the gist of managing and handling the pasta without it being. I perfected this technique to keep it from being so frustrating. Um, so there you have it. Hope you enjoyed.